being stuck in a loop, and seeing some sort of weird cartoon world are two of the stories we are going to read today. What's up, glitches? I'm Auntie Matrix, and people send me their weird, unexplainable true stories to this email address, and I share those with you, and here are a few. Let's get weird. Hi, Auntie. Hi. I love watching your videos and usually have them playing while I'm at work. I love when there's a good spooky one that gives me goosebumps. Me too. I was listening to one of the videos where they were talking about getting stuck in a loop and then randomly remembered something that happened to me at about 6 or 7 years ago with my best friend. We both like to take random night drives, so she'd just show up at my house a lot and tell me to come on. This time we ended up driving to some small town in Cumberland Gap, Tennessee. It's known to have haunted caves nearby as well. Also, on the way, most of the streetlights kept flickering or completely shutting off. Wait, can we talk about the haunted caves? That's really cool. Well, we weren't actually planning on stopping in this town, but we wanted to turn around and head back as it was now 3 a.m. We pulled into this little town and drove past a creepy post office and turned around. No matter what road we took, it came back out to the post office. Neither of our phones had signal, and the GPS she had in her car lost signal as well. We kept trying to leave, but kept ending up at the same post office, and every time we ended back at the post office, it was like no time had passed. Then the last trip we took, all of the lights in the town went out completely. We were both on the verge of a panic attack when she finally started to pray. Neither one of us are religious, but we believe in spirits and all of that. But as soon as she prayed, the lights came back on and we were finally able to leave. She ended up spending the night at my house since we were both freaked out. She thinks we may have switched timelines or got stuck in a loop. I would love to hear what everyone thinks about this. Love you. Love you too. You definitely got stuck in some sort of loop. I don't think you switched timelines. I think you were literally just stuck in a loop. I don't know if there was like a portal and you just kept driving through the portal and coming back out the other side. And I don't know if maybe all the lights in the town went out because it was like time to go, because it was already 3 a.m. right when you started this loop, and I don't know how many times you went around, but maybe by the time you were done, the town was like literally just shut off because it was done for the night. But I don't think that's it, because they wouldn't just shut the street lights off. I'm assuming when you said the lights were out, do you mean the street lights too, or do you just mean the lights in the buildings and the businesses? I don't know, but either way, that is terrifying. These stuck in a loop stories really freak me out. I would have such a panic attack. Oh my God, I don't think I would survive purely because I'd be freaked out. I don't know. Hello, Auntie Matrix. Hi! My wife is a huge fan of yours and is always listening to your stories. On your live stream the other night, there was a story about a person who dreams about the same house and knows that there is a certain part of the house that they should always avoid because something is evil there. This happens in my dreams all the time. I mentioned this to my wife and she encouraged me to submit some of my interesting dreams. For as long as I can remember, I have always been an active dreamer. Much like your other listener, I frequently dream about the same places and can make decisions about where to go, almost like a choose your own adventure. Those were amazing books. One of my favorite examples of this involves a place that I have dreamed about many times. It reminds me of a Victorian England. Think narrow cobblestone streets and everything is in black and white. I immediately recognized where I was and thought to myself, last time I went this way, so let's go this way and see what happens. I walked through an archway that led down a dark alley. I look to my left and see something that looks like a vintage cigarette vending machine. As I approached, I could see something written across the top, Timeline of Death. Below it was your standard timeline, a line with alternating branches that have little circles at the end of them. Somehow I just knew how the machine worked. Each point of the timeline represented a famous death throughout history, and each one of the little circles on the timeline was a little peephole. You pop in your coin, choose a hole to peep into, and watch a little clockwork reenactment of that particular death. What? That is a crazy idea. The timeline had a bunch of the obvious ones, Marie Antoinette with the guillotine, Abraham Lincoln at the Ford Theater, etc., but there was one right at the end of the timeline that just had a big question mark above it. Intrigued, I popped in my coin and peeped in. There was immediately a bright flash of light and a feeling of warmth throughout my body. Somehow, as often happens in my dreams, I just knew that was my point on the timeline of death. Next thing I know, I'm in some sort of dark chamber. I am looking down on the scene as if I am floating above it. There's a large stone slab in the middle of the room that has smaller stone pillars of varying heights laid out on it. The table is surrounded by hooded figures like druids, and they are surrounded by mourning families, including my own. Again, I just knew what was happening. The druids were performing a ritual to bring someone back from the dead. Each stone pillar on the table represented a loved one that had passed away. The druids began chanting, and the stone slab lifted off the table. It raised above their heads, turned over, and started slowly coming back down. The first pillar made contact with the table and shattered. A mourning family in the corner started wailing. That's when I realized, Only one person could be resurrected with this ritual. The stone slab would continue crushing the pillars until only one remained, and that would be the person who got resurrected. As each pillar shattered, I watched with bated breath. As another pillar cracked, I felt an indescribable feeling of warmth and light and woke up in my bed. Interestingly, I have not dreamed of that particular place once since then. It's kind of an interesting concept to think of that every time you dream, there is a version of yourself that dies within the dream. That's all for now, but I have lots of other interesting dreams to share, including one about having an after-church picnic with human-sized chickens that go find the first Christian church of KFC, and one where I was tasked with taking care of a deformed baby that I later figured out was actually the egg of an elusive bird. What are you eating before you go to bed, sir? Is my question. That whole stone slab resurrection ceremony is so supernatural. Those are some crazy dreams. I wonder if you actually did see, if that timeline of death was actually real and you actually did see your death. But wait, you didn't see your death, right? You didn't see your death. It took you to this thing where people were mourning you and were trying to resurrect you. That's interesting. I wonder if you didn't see your death because it's you. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi! I never have told anyone this story in full, just parts and pieces. When I was younger, my father's best friend, we can call him Chris, passed away from cancer. This was a total shock to my parents, considering that he was very healthy and often ran marathons. After a year passed, and my older sister became pregnant with her first child with her husband. Once my nephew turned 3, that's when the weird things started happening. Our house phone was way out of reach for a toddler since we always kept it on a tall bookshelf. Now this is where the creepy part begins. He somehow managed to get the phone and dialed the number 666. What? My entire family got weirded out and just thought it fell when they weren't looking, but it usually made a loud thud if it dropped. A few hours later, my nephew went missing, but we finally found him in the garage. Now, we always kept the garage door locked, but he was sitting and talking as if there was a person there. My sister asked who he was talking to, very creeped out. He looked at my entire family and said, "Uncle Chris." I remember seeing the goosebumps and chills my sister had. Now no one in my family talks about it. My mother threw my sister a huge party for her birthday a few months later, and I was babysitting him. I went to grab some food for a few minutes, returned to her room, and almost dropped my plate when I saw visible bite marks on his arm. What? I don't know why no one's talking about this, by the way. I think it's actually really cool that Uncle Chris is hanging out. After this incident, things were normal, at least I thought. A few years passed and everyone who lived in the house suddenly developed serious chronic illnesses, including myself. One night, I woke up in the middle of the night and saw what looked like a person. Before I could turn on my lamp to see what it was, I was pushed back in bed and blacked out until my alarm woke me up. I realized that I wasn't even in my bed sheets and had been sleeping sideways on my bed. I thought that it was a weird dream or a nightmare until I saw my pillow where I had been sleeping, as if someone put it there while I was blacked out sleeping. Okay, that's really weird and creepy. I immediately switched bedrooms. I thought it would help somewhat, but I was wrong. Certain items in my room went missing and I had to say, "Can you please give it back?" Or "Please give it back, Uncle Chris," and then leave my room. When I came back after a few minutes, the item returned, or even sometimes it would return with an item from my childhood. At this point, I was okay with it, but I always thought it was weird considering I'm quite an organized person. I also once invited a friend while I was in high school for a movie night. After grabbing some snacks for us in the kitchen, I went to join my friend. Her face almost went pale when she saw me walking down the stairs. She told me that I was with her the entire time. Even the seat was warm. That was my last interaction with Chris. Nowadays, I only hear gentle footsteps when I'm home alone, and my dog often stares at the staircase as if someone is there. All of my siblings have moved out. I only came back since I'm working on my master's degree, and it's quick drive to my campus. I have no idea what my parents have experienced, but they now suddenly want to sell the house. And I am too afraid to ask since none of us ever shared any strange experiences. I am now questioning if that was really my father's best friend or something else. Also, I have done multiple sleep studies and I do not have any sleep issues, so sleep paralysis has been ruled out. As for the garage door, we still don't know how it got unlocked. First, I was like, why are we not talking about the fact that Chris is there? Because that's pretty cool. Chris is hanging out with the family, right? That's a really sweet, this is like a sweet ghost story. And then this weird shit started happening. I mean, the missing items and that kind of stuff, that's not so bad. But the fact that someone pushed you down on the bed, that freaks me out. I'm honestly not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about Ghost Chris. And I want to say it was Chris. I wonder if he was like bitter in some way about his illness. And so that's why he's like giving everyone else these illnesses, or if it's something that's posing as Chris. Like I am honestly not sure, but whew. I've been physically gifted and have had visions ever since I can remember, but this was different. I struggle between wondering if this was a dream, only because it's such a crazy thing to have happened, or if it's real life. To this day, I still don't know. This happened to me when I was about 7 or 8 years old. My dad called me outside to our driveway and made me stand near the end of it by the garage door. I was facing towards the road so I could see my dad, who was standing in the middle of the driveway, the side door to our house, and our van that was at the other end of the driveway by the road. He then called out, "My mom's." Yes, that's right, mom with an S. But the thing is, it was the same person. Well, at least they looked identical. I've always only had one mom, but this day there were 2 of them. My dad then proceeded to say, "Pick your mom." What? I vaguely remember saying something like, "Well, I want my real mom, whoever that is." My dad then said, "That's part of the deal. You need to pick who your mom will be from now on out." I felt rushed, worried, and downright terrified, basically every emotion you can think of. I had no choice, so I picked one, and the other one left down the street. I have so many more stories. People tell me to write a book, but I honestly think no one will believe me because of how many I have. We believe you. That is part of our community thing. This is why people share stories here, because we believe you. Okay, no, that doesn't make any sense. I was going to say they were twins and the dad didn't know which one the mom was, but hello, Jessica. It was the person who would be pregnant, obviously, would be the mom. It's not like when you have 2 dads and you're not sure who the dad is. So that can't be a thing. That is really weird. Was one from another timeline? I honestly don't even know what to say about this, but I hope you picked the right one. Hello, Auntie Matrix. Hi! Love your content. Sometimes I have nightmares about other people's experiences, mostly mimics. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Stop watching. Anyway, this one has been on my brain since it first happened, probably 2004. I grew up in rural. I did it. I said rural. I grew up in rural Redwoods in Northern California. They need to just take that word out of the dictionary. I'm sorry. It's too hard to pronounce. There wasn't much sky to see with all of the forest around us. My parents had built a bedroom in an area that was below the main house, all of which was very small, and they were trying to give my sister and I separate bedrooms as we had been sharing one and I was now a senior in high school. First month in a new room, I had seen weird colored lights in the sky. Second month, I felt something pulling me to look outside. Third month, I felt it and I looked. It was the weirdest lights I'd ever seen. 3 or 5 lights, definitely an odd number. It was moving erratically all over, but only in the small part of the sky I could see from my bedroom window. I know for a fact none of my family or neighbors could see the view that I had. I don't quite remember the color of the lights, but I remember feeling it was trying to get my attention. I remember meditating and trying to communicate with it because it was clearly getting my attention. Mind you, this was in the middle of the night, woke me up with lights in this new bedroom. I asked what or why it was connected to me. I had this feeling I knew it. Something weird and warm centered in my body. I didn't know what was happening. I called out, "I don't know what you are, and I'm not scared. I'm just not ready." And I cried my eyes out. I watched the lights get closer than they ever have before, and then the only way I can explain it is it went shoop, like it sucked something out of me and ascended into the universe. It was like the feeling of losing your breath and finally breathing again. I felt it physically. 20 years later, I can still feel it, and I wish I could describe it better. I actually wrote a poem about it that night. Maybe I can find it. It might explain it better, but I still have never forgotten that feeling like the air was sucked out of me. It never came again, and I still think about it, and I can feel the emotions that I felt that night. Wow, that is crazy. When you say you can still feel it, do you mean that you still feel the sucking feeling, or do you just mean like when you think about it, you can still feel it? What did they take from you? Clearly they knew you. Maybe they had taken you before then. I wonder what they were coming back for. And then you were meditating, right? So they were like, oh, okay, cool. We can go closer. Was it like a CE5 meditation, or you were just like meditating? That's a question I have for you. What did they take? Like, I just want to, like, what did they take from you? They didn't take your soul, right? That's what it makes me feel like, is that they took your soul, but they definitely didn't take your soul. Another thing I thought of, I don't know how old you were. Wait, does it say how old you were? I don't think it says how old you were. Were you old enough to have a child? Because I've heard many stories of aliens taking human babies or impregnating people and then taking those babies. I don't know if it would be done like that, though. I feel like that's very interesting. I don't know. What do you guys think that was? I've only shared this experience with a few people because of how personal it is, but I feel like I need to share it with you. My mom was a single mother to myself and my little brother. I was 19 at the time and my little brother was 9. It started off like a normal morning. My mom woke up and took my little brother to school and came back home. A few hours later, my mom came to my bedroom but never opened my door and told me that she was leaving to go to the store, which was like 7 to 9 minutes from our house. Okay, I yelled. We both exchanged I love yous as she was leaving. My mom would always kiss me goodbye even if she was going to check on the mailbox because she thought that you just never know what will happen. That morning, she didn't. As I hear my mom leave, I get up out of bed and run to my bedroom door because I wanted to go with her, but I had a strong gut reaction when my hand touched the doorknob to not go, to just stay home. So I did. Around 2 hours later, I had a state trooper at my door telling me my mom had been in a serious car accident. He needed to take me to the hospital. Without thinking, I go with him. On the way there, I kept asking details about this accident, but he kept the info minimum. He did tell me that the last he knew, she was still breathing. We get to the hospital and I am taken to the family room where a pastor was waiting for me. No, I start backing up. I hear the pastor say, I am so sorry. The doctors did all they could, but your mother passed away. I let out a loud scream and collapsed to the floor. The next thing I remember is being lifted up by the troopers. I turned to the one who drove me here and yelled at him, you told me she was breathing, you lied to me. I turned to the pastor and said, I need to see my mom, I need to see her now. They took me to her room where she was laying there looking so peaceful. I remember yelling out, Mom, please, no, please wake up. God, don't you dare do this to me. I need her. She is my mom. I need her. I see her eyes start blinking. I run out of the room and grab the doctor and the nurse and told them, but after going back in the room, feeling for a pulse, they assured me that was normal for a body to do after passing. I thought I experienced the worst moment of my life until I realized I had to tell my little brother now that our mom had died. The next week was a whirlwind, planning the funeral, planning the service, having family constantly coming and going. After the funeral, my little brother reminded me, he said, remember, Mom told us if something ever happened and she couldn't say goodbye, she had wrote us each a letter. I promised him I would go in her room and look for it. That was the first time I had went into her room after her passing. Everything was just like she had left it. I started looking everywhere for the letter, the Bible, her important papers, her drawers, everywhere, and I couldn't find it. At this point, I was overcome with emotion from not being able to find it, being upset, and now I started getting angry. Mom, I said out loud, why would you write this letter and not leave it where I could find it? Why would you do that? I sat in her bed and all of a sudden I started getting so sleepy out of nowhere. It was like I had taken a sleeping pill. That is how fast I became sleepy. I lay down in her bed and drifted right off to sleep. The next thing I know, I am in this bright white room. I had never seen that color of white before. I turn around and there is my mom standing there in the most beautiful white gown, looking so beautiful. Without even thinking, I run up to her and just collapse in her arms. In majority of my dreams, I never could feel like the touch of others, but this was different. I felt my mom hug me. I felt her lift me up off my knees. I said, Mom, why did you leave me? And she looked down at me and said, my sweet boy, I have never left you. I have been by your side every moment. I felt your pain and your hurt and tried to come back, but I wasn't allowed. I looked up at her. You mean in the hospital? Yes, she said. I wanted more than anything to wake up and jump back into my body, but that wasn't the way it was supposed to happen. There is no way I could have ever said goodbye to you. The goodbye would have been more painful than the way that it happened. I said, Mom, I'm trying to find the letter you wrote to me and my little brother, but I can't find it. She told me that it was in her purse and she had taken it to the storage building. She told me exact directions. She said, when you go in the building, turn to your right, you will see 6 boxes stacked up on one another. Move all 6, and behind those will be 3 more boxes. In the middle box, you will see clothes, but if you move the clothes, you will see my old purse I used to carry. Open the purse, and in the zipper section is the letter to you and your brother. After she told me the directions, I woke up. Her room was ice cold, but her scent was all around me. It was at that time that I went straight to the storage building and followed the directions, and it was exactly as she told me it would be. Those letters helped my grief and my little brother's grief. I still have those types of dreams, but it's not like the regular dreams. It's like a visit from my mom. It was a weekly, then monthly, and now it seems every other month, but we talk about recent events that have happened. I still ask for her advice and she still guides me. In her letter, she said, I will see you in your dreams. I will meet up with you in your dreams whenever you need me, I promise. And she has kept her promise. Every time I really need my mom, I get sleepy out of nowhere, and within 5 minutes, I am in a deep sleep. And every time that I wake up, it's so cold around me, and her scent is in the room. Oh my God. What a beautiful story. Terribly sad, but also beautiful. I love that your mom is still with you, and those are not dreams. You're right. Those are not dreams. They're not just dreams. Like, your mom is visiting you, and that is amazing. I'm assuming that she's coming around less and less because you've needed her less and less as time's going on, and you're still having contact with her. You're probably healing a little bit, you know? That is so amazing. I wish that I could have that with some of the people that have passed on in my life. Hello. Hi. My name is Myra Gonzalez. I've been watching your videos for a while and finally decided this is the perfect place to finally bring this up again. I always have it in the back of my mind, but haven't talked about it in over a decade. When I was 10 years old, I was playing tag with my 3 cousins and my brother. There was a party going on at my aunt's house. Everyone was outside, but the 5 of us were kind of just running outside and inside playing hide and go seek and tag. It was my turn to hide along with my cousin and my brother. We're all looking for a spot to hide, so we ran inside the house. When entering, to the left, there's a long hallway with 4 doors. One of them is a laundry room, another one is a restroom. The far end is one of my cousin's room, and to the right is a door that took you outside. My cousin, my brother, and myself ran down the hallway. My cousin ran past all the doors until the end to his room. My brother was right behind him and ran in there with him. They slammed the door and left me out. I was the only one out in that hallway and was going to choose one of the 3 rooms to hide in. I decided it was going to be better to open the door that took me outside through the back, because that way, if anyone opened it to find me, I could just run away. As soon as I opened that door and I was ready to run outside, everything looked fake. Everything had vibrant colors and it just didn't look real. It looked as if I was about to walk into a cartoon. I stood inside of the door and I held it open, just staring out into this weird cartoon looking world. Everything looked exactly how outside looks, but cartoon. I was in shock. I can't remember what I was feeling or thinking in that moment, but I just knew not to step into this world. I didn't know what to do. I don't remember if I left the door open or if I slammed it shut. I just remember running back down the hallway through the living room outside to where my whole family was. I ran straight to my mom and told her what I had just seen. My mom told my aunt, and the 3 of us went back to check, and when my aunt opened the door, it looked just normal again. I remember myself desperately trying to explain what I had seen, but they just brushed it off and told me I was probably just having a big imagination. They went back outside to sit where they were, and I just sat there with them the rest of the time. This happened when I was around 10 years old. I am going on 28 this year and can still remember exactly how that cartoon outdoors looked. I wish my parents would believe me or someone would believe me, but when I bring it up to my mom, she tells me she doesn't remember that ever happening, and my aunt doesn't remember it either. Till this day, I wondered what it was. What would have happened if I would have stepped outside to that cartoonish looking outdoors? Would I be here? Would I have opened something to a different dimension? I don't know. But till this day, I think about it and just wonder. This is so cool. Okay, first of all, I think your mom and your aunt don't remember because they literally brushed it off. So to them, that was a nothing event, right? That was a nothing to them. It was like, oh, okay, this little girl is just having an imagination, an imaginative moment and describing it. So that's like, and it happens all the time, right? So that's a nothing to them. So that's why they don't remember. What would have happened? I don't know. I feel like you definitely, for some reason, opened the door and there was like a little portal there to like another dimension where it's cartoonish. How cool is that? Who knows what's out there, man? And if you would have stepped through, I wonder if you would have stepped through, would you have also looked cartoon, right? Would you be able to like look at yourself or look in a cartoon mirror and you would have looked cartoon? And would you have been able to get back? If you would have stepped through and then you would have came back through the door, would you have been able to go back through the door again? Would you have been stuck in the cartoon world? If you came back through again, would you turn back to regular? Or would you like be cartoon? It's just, I have like so many questions. This is so cool. I wish that are you an artist by any chance? If you're an artist, you need to like draw what you saw. I'm really trying to picture it in my brain and I'm picturing it a little bit, but I don't know what you saw. That was really cool. That concludes our creepy compilation for today. If you have a story that you want to share, send it to auntiematrix@gmail.com. And you can find my merch, my Discord, and all my other links at tessicavision.com. And remember, we believe you. If you want to keep it going now, check out this video or this playlist.